So we just finished watching a video of how we had two different conditions. We had two numbers being added to each other that equal to 10, and two numbers being subtracted from each other that is equal to 10. And we wanted to find two numbers that met those two conditions, and those conditions were that the sum was equal to 10 and the difference was equal to 10. What were the numbers that we found? 0 and 10. Okay, perfect. So, and then we watched a video of the solutions, and now we're supposed to watch another video. So we're gonna watch the second video.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Is it the thick wolf or the thin wolf?
The 12 inch.
And then do you want to find the second video? And then this is the video out loud so that we can hear it together. We want you to fill in the table as we're watching the video.
9 3/4, huh? We'll just use this one here. 7 1/4. Right, okay. Now, the first one was 3/4, wasn't it? 9 3/4?
7 1/4.
Yeah.
Let's change that to 9 3/4. So you can write it there. 9 3/4. Okay, so I guess there's no third knot. They're not going to give us a third knot. But if you were to guess how long the third knot would be, what would you think?
I think 6.
6.
Because went from 1/2 to 1/4. Now I'm thinking it's just gonna be 6.
Okay, well, let's put 6, but I also want to talk about how to write these lengths instead of fractions, because you were using mixed numbers. Now, 9 and 3/4. What is 3/4 in pennies? How many cents is that?
3.
If you have 3/4, how many pennies do you have? How much change is that?
It's like 75 quarters.
75 cents, right?
75 pennies.
Right, so 75 cents.
Okay.
So you can write 9 and 3/4 as 9.75. You can write 8 1/2 as, what's half of a dollar? 50 cents. You can write it as $8.50. And you can write $7 1/4. How?
7.25.
7.25. And you can, and then you said this was gonna be 6, right? So you're guessing.
Because it keeps getting smaller each time.
And that's
75 to 50 from 25.
And that's a good guess. Now I noticed that you said it starts getting smaller. I want to see by how much did it get smaller.
Quarter.
Well, if you have $9.75.
Oh, 50 cents.
And then you get $8.50. How much did you spend? If you had $9.75.
$1.
Well, think about it. So you have $9. Okay. And then you have 75 cents. I'm going to draw 3/4. Okay. And now you spent some money. Okay, this is the money you spent. And then you have $8 and you have 50 cents. Okay, so looking at the dollars, how much did you spend in dollars? You spent $1. And looking at the quarters, how much? 125. Okay, so the change here,
It's 125.
it went down 125. You can, and since we're talking about inches, it shrunk by 1 inch and 1/4.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, what about from here to here? If we had $8 and 50 cents, and we subtract an amount, and we're left with $7.25. How much did we spend?
125.
125.
So it's
Okay.
changing by 125.
That's what I see.
Oh, okay. So from this one.
So think about that. You know, I see that when we use dollars, it's easier for you to subtract decimals and fractions. That's good. So we're going to be using that from now on to kind of guide you for that. So what is going to happen here for this number?
You're going to minus 125.
You're going to subtract 125. That's
so
right.
725 minus 125 will turn into...
Okay, so what happens here? This is 0.
This is 0.
Right? So
it's just $1.
And then you're subtracting $1. Actually, I'm subtracting 125, not 625, right?
Yeah.
So $1, what do you get? 6. So look, you were right. Your guess was right. That was a really good guess. It happens to be the right step. You already put it there. We're going to move forward. Okay? So you want to read that sentence to me there?
It says, after how many knots will the two ropes have the same length? Look at the patterns in the length of each rope to figure out the best answer.
Great. So we're looking here. After how many knots will the ropes have the same length? You see,
I'm thinking at 6.
at the third knot,
yeah.
after the third knot, they will be the same length. But as they continue,
It'll change?
they're not going to be the same length because the thick rope is decreasing by how much each time you tie a knot?
2.
It's decreasing by 2. And this one, the thin rope, is only decreasing
By 1
by
or 125.
1.25 or 1.25. That's right. So, so we're gonna fill in the statement here. Write a complete sentence. And you already said after the third knot, the two ropes would be the same length. And then it also says, look at the pattern in the length of each rope to figure out the best answer. So
we look here.
So you're going to look at the pattern and you're going to answer the question to the best of your ability. So I'm going to wait for you to respond to that. Okay, like it. So we're going to move forward. After the third knot, the two ropes will have the same length. Yep, and you can see it in the table. All right. So let's take a look at this equation here. It says, the next question says what? Read it to me.
Write an equation that models the data in the table above for the length of the thick rope. Use 1 for the length of the rope. Use L for the length of the rope and K for the number of knots.
Okay. So you're going to write two equations, one to represent the first rope and then one to represent the second rope. The thick rope and the thin rope. Okay. So how are we going to do this? So we're going to use L to represent the length of the rope and K to represent the number of knots. So we have two variables, okay, and an equation has to have an equal sign, right? So tell me if this makes sense. The length of a rope is equal to the number of knots. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the rope is, so the number of knots is 3. Is that the length of the rope?
No.
No. No, it's a little more complicated than this. So the equation has to be a little bit more complicated. Let's start with the first one. So we're going to look at the table here. Okay. So in the first rope for the thick one, okay, we have the length of the rope is equal to 12 inches. Okay, 12 inches. And when you tie a knot in a rope, does it get shorter or longer?
Shorter.
Shorter. Now, using your mathematical operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, when I talk about things getting shorter, what operation would you guess?
Subtraction.
Subtraction. I would guess subtraction as well. So we start off with 12, and let's subtract the number of knots. Let's see if that works. Okay?
The number
of knots. Okay.
Well, 1.
1 in this case. So I started off with 12. So if you have 0 knots, the length is equal to 12 minus 0, and that would be 12. So is this true?
Yeah.
The initial length is 12. When the initial length is when there's no knots in it, so that's when k equals 0. Let's try it when k equals 1. Okay, so the length is going to be equal to 12 minus 1. Let's see if this is right. What's 12 minus 1?
11.
11. Okay. Is this the length of the rope
No.
when it has 1 knot in it? No. We're off by what? We're off by
1.
by 1.